And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome aboard. I'm meteorologist Peter Chan, coming to you from the National Weather Service in Alaska region, and this is your Alaska Marine Weather Outlook on this Sunday, May 25th, 2025. And before we look at the marine forecast, we'll take a look at the state of the sea ice, and the ice continues to melt off across the northern half of the Bering Sea. We still do have some ice there in Norton Sound, around Stebbins, St. Michael, and also out to the west, especially both on the north and especially in the southern areas south of St. Lawrence Island, and as well as back toward the northeast side there of St. Matthew. And the ice will just continue to melt off rather quickly now as we are rapidly approaching the solstice into the summer season. There's always a lag to the warming that we see across the northern hemisphere, but nevertheless the process will continue. One thing though that hasn't changed much is the overall storm track and weather pattern I've been talking about for over a month now. So we have some energy coming off of the Bering into the North Pacific, and then new energy and moisture coming up from the North Pacific into the Gulf. And this is kind of the central, at the surface, the central pivot or rotation point of this trough of low pressure. So what's going to happen is we have this one low southeast of the Alaska Peninsula, southwest of Kodiak Island, but there's going to be a stronger system come up later Monday, Memorial Day, from the North Pacific and eventually swing into the Panhandle, especially Monday evening, Monday night, Tuesday. And there'll be another one after that later Tuesday into Wednesday. Meanwhile, the interior stays unsettled, these troughs of low pressure acting as a focus with the daytime heating to produce scattered showers and thunderstorms. So for Monday, Memorial Day afternoon, here comes this next front. Notice the tighter pressure gradient here with the isobars. So that's going to bring in some stronger southeasterly winds. Could be near gale force. And then as we get into Tuesday, that front occludes the main central rotation here back toward the southwestern Gulf off of Kodiak Island. There'll be another impulse coming up along this frontal boundary coming up from this region of the North Pacific that'll bring some additional moderate to locally heavy rain across the Panhandle. I think some of the rain could be heavier on Monday night and Tuesday in the southern Panhandle, and as that peels back westward, it may lose some of its punch. But there's going to be actually a stronger low coming on up Wednesday into Thursday, and that'll eventually position itself over the western Gulf just above 980 millibars. So that's a pretty strong system for this time of year. Looking at the winds Monday, so in advance of this next occluded front, winds will be southeasterly, 15-20 knots, Lynn Canal, Stevens Passage, waves 3-4 feet. You get down here in Dixon Entrance, there's going to be some funneling and some stronger winds. There could be some higher gusts, especially by Monday night. And waves building 10-11 feet. You get the outer coast, winds 25 to 30 knots and swells right around 10 feet. There could be some gusts to 35 knots outside of Yakutat Bay. And then for Tuesday, because the front will be kind of just bumped up into this region, we have south-southeast winds, 20-25 knots, Lynn Canal, Stevens Passage, but Dixon Entrance down through here, south-southeast winds to 35 knots and waves 12 to 14 feet. The outer coast, southeast winds, generally 25 knots, Sitka, outside of Cross Sound and Yakutat Bay, 10-11 foot waves. For the northwestern Gulf, Prince William Sound, east winds 10 knots on Memorial Day, 2-foot waves. Outside of Hinchinbrook Entrance, east winds 25 knots, 8-9 foot swells. Upper Cook Inlet, variable winds at 10 knots, but as we drop down through the inlet south of Anchor Point, off of Homer and around Kennedy Entrance, 15-knot northeasterly winds, stronger though they're just northeast of Kodiak City. Off the far south end of the Kenai, 25-knot northeast winds, and those 25-knot northeast winds continue off the Kenai Tuesday. Easterly winds 25 knots outside of Hinchinbrook Entrance. Winds come up a bit within Prince William Sound, 3-4 foot waves Tuesday. Still variable winds upper Cook Inlet down through middle Cook Inlet north of Anchor Point, and northeast winds there outside there the Homer Spit at 20 knots, 4-foot waves. Across Kodiak Island on Monday, we are looking at northeast winds to 25 knots, 7-8 foot waves. Shelikof Strait east of Kodiak City. And then as we drop on down along the Alaska Peninsula, on the North Pacific side, northeast winds 25 knots off of Sand Point, Chicknick, waves 7 feet. But as we go down from Bristol Bay to Cold Bay, northeast winds turning northerly 15 to 20 knots, 5 to 6 foot waves. And for Tuesday, look for northeast winds 25 knots within Shelikof Strait, north winds on the east side of Kodiak Islands to 25 knots. But those winds will turn more around to the west-northwest across the middle and lower portion of the peninsula, and could be as high as 25 knots either side there, Cold Bay and False Pass. The Aleutians, the eastern Aleutians, will see northerly winds on Monday at 20 knots as we get west of Nikolsky, Atka, Adak, westward. We're looking at northwest winds to 30 knots, falling off to northwesterly 15 knots, Kiska to Shimia. And then for Tuesday, overall, lighter winds, most of the Aleutians, still northwesterly 25 knots around Unalaska, Dutch Harbor. Northerly Nikolsky 15 knots, and then variable winds in the central Aleutians only around 10 knots. Those will turn more around to the northeast, 15 knots or so, but could be as high as 25 knots there west of Kiska. So on Monday, out of Bristol Bay, northeast winds 15 knots, north winds 20 knots out of Kuskokwim Bay, 15-knot north winds, St. Matthew down through the Pribilovs. And then along the lower Yukon coast into Norton Sound, look for north winds 10 to 15 knots, waves 2-3 feet. And for Tuesday, winds are going to turn northwesterly across the region. Some of the strongest winds there just outside of Kuskokwim Bay to 25 knots. 20-knot winds there on the north side of Nunavik Island. So we go up along Hooper Bay to Imanik in the wider expanse between there and Nome. We're looking at northwest winds anywhere from 10 to 15, maybe as high as 20 knot and some gusts. And then through the Bering Strait, Monday, north winds, west side of Seward Peninsula, north side of St. Lawrence Island to 20 knots. Lower Chukchi Sea, northwest winds 15 knots into Kotzebue Sound. Winds more southwesterly, Wainwright up to Utqiagvik at 15 knots, and then we're looking at south winds off of Prudhoe Bay, 10 knots. Easterly winds at Kaktovik to 10 knots on Memorial Day. There is a little front coming through there, and then on Tuesday, winds should generally become more west-northwesterly along the Beaufort Sea coast, only though at around 10 knots. As we drop down through the Chukchi Sea, especially as we get past Cape Lisburne, winds will go north to northwest, turning westerly into Kotzebue Sound, right around 15 knots across the lower portion of the Chukchi Sea. And then for the west side of the Seward Peninsula, Wales, Port Clarence, Nome, northwest winds to 15 knots. And then on the north side of St. Lawrence Island, we are looking at westerly winds at 15 knots and waves generally in this area between St. Lawrence and the Bering Strait. Waves generally running around 3 feet in the open water on Tuesday.